I was there for like 5 minutes, and like the neighbor kid comes rolling in, and his kid goes like, "Where's the money at?" I said, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm the neighbor.
Give me the damn money."
I'm the neighbor. He said, "Come get the money." I said, "Oh, okay. So you gonna offer to help me to load these beans first, or are you just gonna take my money and run?" He's like, "No, just give me the money." The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, it's almost food plot season, Jared, and Deer Grow is one of those products that has really changed the way that we plant food plots and the success we've seen from them.
No doubt. I've been, trying to plant food plots my entire, whitetail hunting career, which is a little shorter than yours. But the minute that I started, or that I realized that I could get Deer Grow back into some of these remote plots where I couldn't get lime or fertilizer, especially in the 50-pound bag, format. Mm-hmm. So everything was changed. I could get into these spots moving forward with a backpack sprayer, and that's since escalated to these 40 or 60 gallon sprayers, and we're doing upwards of 5 to 10 acre food plots just with Deer Grow and having phenomenal success.
Yeah, and I mean, with the price of fertilizer, lime, diesel, everything this year, I mean, what better way to get in there and grow a successful food plot at about a third of the cost? Check out Deer Grow at deergrow.com. And we're back.
Hey-o.
On our podcast, episode 128. Nick is in Vegas. Vegas.
Living it up.
Yeah, he's on his way back right now, supposedly.
Is he?
I don't know. He won a karaoke contest. That's not a joke. Nick actually won a karaoke contest.
Can Nick sing?
Yeah, he sings. He plays the guitar. We're going to have him write us a theme song at some point.
Interesting.
So he won a karaoke contest, trip to Vegas. So him and the girl out in Vegas. I don't know what they're doing. Rolling the dice.
Rolling dice, yeah.
Rolling dice. Snake eyes.
Huh.
So,
Dude, what I think it is about this time of year is like I'm just behind. Just behind.
Yeah.
Like I just can't keep up.
Well, it just this is the critical period in the year where we're just like head down, nose to the grindstone, just go. Like hammer, because there are other times that we don't want to do that stuff. And so when you get to that point, if you are only planning fall plots per se and things like that, it'd be pretty, lax time frame. But if you're starting to look at beans and corn and summer plots or clover, even in like spring plots, I mean, you need time to do that stuff. We talked about it yesterday. I mean, you need time to dedicate to that. And when you're trying to be as productive as you can at work as well, there's just not enough time in the day.
This is the time too. I think just even like analytics would show like as few people are
thinking about it
hunting as like even in the entire year, like even January, February, March, even shed hunting, it's like you still have the remnants of the last season. It's kind of fresh in mind. Like this time of year is like
it's dead.
I
mean, I'm looking at like nubs coming up. I'm like, trying to get excited, just can't.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited, and like we're putting in a lot of work now that I hope will pay off. But it's hard to envision like when the trees are just greening up, and like we'll talk about maybe that the burn project is not really greening up necessarily, but it's hard to imagine what that October will get here at some point.
I know. Well, I mean, we talked about it yesterday when we were both on our farms. I mean,
June, July, August, September,
6 months,
5 months,
5 months. I mean, it's like full blown leaf out. Like, I mean, it looks like summer at the farms.
It's summer.
Yeah,
it's just about summer. It's almost June.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that already.
June summer, right? I would call June summer. Yeah. June, July, August.
Yeah.
It's about summer. Almost.
That's nuts. Yeah, and I mean, in a blink of an eye, it'll be here. It'll be August, and everything will be fully grown, and we'll be ready to roll.
Yeah. You want to cover some of our recent escapades here this past weekend? Some wins, some successes,
some wins, some losses. Yeah, that sounds good. I don't even remember what the hell did we do. Where was I last weekend? What did we do?
Well, I don't even know if it was the weekend. It was yesterday.
Yeah,
I went up to the farm and I was planning to get fertilizer down.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like this past 2 weeks I've been watching weather, trying to time with Dad, and like it's just and getting up to the farm. For beans, we're putting 12 acres in, and I had to.
How many different plots is that?
One
12 acre.
Yeah,
that's a giant bean field.
Yeah, it's like 1/3 of what we'd burned off.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's just a giant contiguous sections. I've had beans in 2 of them before,
Yep.
not within the past, I don't know, 2 years. For whatever reason, we kinda stopped doing it. That was a mistake.
Yeah.
Um, I connected them. So, like,
Mhm.
there was a whole middle section that we had never
Mhm.
planted, so that's part of what we burned off, so now it's all one big 12-acre, bean field.
Kind of pinch them down there in the middle.
No, the whole thing is honestly pretty tough to hunt. That whole farm, like, until this past year, has only been accessible from the, east.
Mm.
From the west, rather.
Mm.
So you're coming in, like, up like,
Usually,
they're
and
just
yeah,
they're
winds on your back.
yeah, like, if you wanted to get either to either side or on the downwind side of, like, if you wanna call that a food
Mhm.
plot, you have to walk all the way around. It just didn't make
Yeah, it's
sense.
tough.
It didn't make sense. So, now that those leases are done, because across the fence had been leased,
Yep.
previously, and my uncle owns that. So now that those leases are up, we can come in from the downwind side, which gives us a huge advantage. There's a few options that we would have to hunt that. I don't know. I just the way that lays out, it's just going to be a really challenging one to bow hunt. So I'm kind of erring on the side of, like, we've got plenty of other surrounding, tree
Mhm.
stand locations and like ways to hunt that property that I think we'll
Yeah.
probably lean towards. I toyed with the idea of putting a box blind on it, so I'm pulling one off of the west wind.
Mhm.
Same deal. Just can't hunt
Yep.
it. You have to access from the west, and, like, everything can see you, and it's just
Mhm.
like, areas that over time we've just figured aren't that huntable. Like, we're probably just doing more harm than good. So I'm pulling that blind, and it was either going to go on this bean plot somewhere,
Mhm.
even if it was like for a gun stand,
'Cause I
which,
think we looked at that, like, that one corner where you would
yeah.
come up and just pop right up in.
And I might eventually. I think this year we'll just kind of observe, and,
Mhm.
and see how it gets
Yeah.
used, and
I mean, it should change it,
I,
dropping that much food will change patterns in that
no
area.
doubt, no doubt. Well, and I've got stands, like, all the way around it. So, like,
Mhm.
it's 12 acres, so it's like
Mhm.
it's touching, quite a bit
Mhm.
on either side. So I've got, like, the log pile stand is, like,
Mhm.
basically connected. Like, even though I've planted that in clover,
Yeah, it's right there.
and it sits between what I would call a big bedding block of woods.
Yep.
This is where gobbler's knobs at and stuff, and this bean field. On the
Mhm.
other side, like right where I killed this fuzzy wuzzy, is
Mhm.
is the east wind.
Yep.
It's right there.
Yep.
And then on the other, on the
East one will be brassicas.
Nebraskas, yeah.
Mhm.
And then on, the western side, I've got the Roberts hogback.
Mhm.
Hogbacks right there. And then I've got, that gas line pinch stand that sits, that's up
Yep.
above the bedding area that's overlooking these beans. And
Yeah, and I
and then
mean,
the brown line is on the other
right
side.
on the yeah, and so, I mean,
I've got us surrounded.
you've got this giant destination, you know, plot now, whereas all these satellite pieces are gonna be even more productive, I think.
For sure, and I think that's the hope. Like, and maybe we will find out a way. We'll find a way to hunt it. Maybe I put a box pond there at some point. But my hope is that it just,
Yeah.
holds deer year round, and,
Brings
and that
them.
all the surrounding spots will be uh, uh, improved, made better by that.
Yeah, I mean, because you have to think, like, let's use, like, an east twin on a brassica plot, like, you would hope that deer are funneling through there to this big bean plot in the morning. You slide in, you catch them coming back like that. They start to be transition plots versus right now they are destination plots in themselves.
Mhm.
There's no where else are they going to go. They're just going to bounce those little plots. Now there is a destination source. These are now satellite or transition plots that should have less pressure and should allow you to have better access in and out.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, and they don't really use them. Like, I just think that having that much food, uh, like, will have an interesting effect on even the pressure, just pressure in the sense of, like, deer
yeah.
cohabitation, like,
Yep.
less deer in a small area like
Yep.
that. Um,
Yeah, we know those big bucks just kind of like to be by themselves for a while until, rut comes around.
yeah, well, like, that East Twin is one of the bigger plots. It's like an acre and a half, and we've got a pretty high deer density, and there is no adjacent destination food plot. So, like,
Mhm.
that is kind of it. And so we don't really. I wouldn't say that there has been historically, like, a mature or dominant buck that, like, is using that as his
Right.
primary food source.
Right.
Hasn't happened. It maybe briefly, like early in a season, if because there's a lot of good bedding in that
Mhm.
area. Yeah, they'll pop through it. Like I said, I've killed this one, even though he's a weird one. He wasn't necessarily
Yeah.
doing what normal deer do.
Yeah, because he came in from the opposite way we thought he was gonna come in.
hmm
Yeah. But
Um,
still, I mean,
yeah, but so anyways, my hope would be that like now I still have all these surrounding, whatever you want to call them, transition plots or smaller food plots
mhm,
surrounding a bigger destination that I think can support not just one but multiple mature buck,
yeah,
uh, home ranges. So
yep,
my hope would be that now I've got, not just three or four scattered food plots that aren't enough to hold a buck full time,
mhm,
but I've got three or four staging plots surrounding, a destination plot
giant.
that is more than enough to sustain three or four mature bucks on all sides,
I mean, I think that
or however
ultimately,
many.
doesn't matter if you've got 1,000 acres or 100 acres. The goal for anybody that wants to kill mature deer is how to overlap those home ranges. Sure, maybe one mature buck has a core area on your property, but I mean, as you get into the fall, time frame, we're talking in a lot of places 1,000+ acres for a home range, right? 2,000 in some cases. And so the goal for your property should be to overlap as many of those mature buck home ranges as possible, right? If you can visualize it on a map, your property should look like a whole bunch of bubbles laying over top of each other. And some's going to cover just this corner, some's going to cover through the middle, some might cover the entire property. And when you do that, number one is you've created enough space for the mature bucks especially to utilize your property but not necessarily always have confrontation on the property. And then number two is you provide yourself with as much ample opportunity to kill mature buck as possible. Now, think about that at a micro level, right? A property level, you're not going to have 20 mature bucks, overlapping a 150 or 500 acre property, right? The age demographic in most places, unless you're in Kansas or Iowa. If you're in Kansas and Iowa, maybe. But where we're at in Ohio or Kentucky, you're probably going to have 10, 12, maybe.
Well, like another way to say that would be you just try to make the property hunt as big as possible.
Yep.
The bigger a property hunts, and like what that phrase means is like you want as uh you want habitat that can sustain as many,
Mm-hmm.
mature bucks ideally, but
Yep.
just deer in
Just
general as
use
possible.
of them.
And
Yep.
that's what you're saying, like the overlapping. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, inherently, like we can't control what their range is, or especially even their home range, but we can make the property hunt as big as possible
Mm-hmm.
by improving the habitat as much as possible.
Well,
That's what we're
and
doing.
that's where it gets we look at some of these properties in Iowa, Missouri, Kansas. When you look at those properties, and let's say it's 500-acre property, well, 400 acres of it is tillable ground, right? There isn't that property doesn't hunt like 500 acres. Hunts small, really small, actually. When you flip the script, as long as the habitat coincides with it, if you hunt 100 acres in the hardwoods, that feels pretty damn big. Now, if it's mature hardwoods, it's not gonna you're gonna have more room to hunt, but it's not gonna be utilized by deer as if it was like 100 acres of prime habitat. So you just have to outweigh those different things, and I think that again, for if you're in open ground, you probably have the opportunity to position your food plots in a very strategic way. If you're in wooded ground, you probably work with the openings that are given to you. But understanding how those positions can affect that deer movement, and not just a specific deer, but multiple deer moving in and around that property, per what you're talking about. Instead of having these smaller satellite plots where maybe that same buck cruised and hit every one, now he's got a giant destination. He may find himself coming through just one mainly. Not that he won't go in the other ones, but he's got kind of a path of there and back that makes more sense versus a full circle of all the plots. Um,
Sure. Well, and not that he will do that either. I mean, I think we're circling like one of Sturgis's like principles
mhm.
that maybe we lacked full understanding of or agreement
His
in
depth of cover type of thing.
the depth of cover, but like specifically the f- the food offering.
Mhm.
Like, and I don't want to put words like in his mouth, but I believe he was like advocating or does advocate for something like a having the same food source
Yeah.
in multiple
Yep.
parts of a farm or a property. And
So the attraction is all monocultured across the board. There's no reason for them to go
yeah,
to this one and not this one. Or
which makes a lot of sense. Like ideally, you can still offer a diversity,
Mhm.
but like the reality is, like, deer are looking to eat different things at different times of the year,
Yeah, they
or
mature, and
they
the
prefer.
attractiveness is different at different times of the year.
Right. And
Yeah.
so, like, if you have 40 acres and you're like, well, I have a 2 acre brassica field here,
Mhm.
and I've got like whatever 2 or 3 clover plots here. The clover plots are great, but like those rarely act in a destination format. Like,
Sure.
I really do think that, and that's kind of been my progression in
Because
the
of the
past.
tonnage, you mean, in the destination side?
And the size,
And the
the
size.
size, the size has been the biggest thing for me. Like,
Yeah, I mean, they can crush an acre clover plot pretty fast.
they can crush it, but even if they don't, like, they just want to be in a big open
Mhm.
social area, like
Mhm.
at night. That's what they
Yeah,
do.
visualization.
Yeah, they want to get out and, like, get a survey on their
Mhm.
herd, and like just kind of. I believe that,
Mhm.
at least we're, in my part of Ohio there, where I'm hunting.
Yeah.
And so we've struggled for all the reasons we've kind of been getting through here, with the smaller food plots. They just don't act as a destination food source that will hold one or more mature bucks for a long period of time. But what I'm saying here with the Sturgis thing is, I in the same vein of what we're trying to say about making the property hunt bigger.
Mhm.
If you can break your property like into blocks, even extending outside of your property, like, oh, I know the neighbor's got XYZ bedding or food
Right.
available, so like account for that. The deer don't just operate in the bounds
Oh,
of
yeah.
your property. So break it down and say where could be a potential home range, or maybe not just potential. Like, here's where I think a buck is at, and then
Mhm.
there's another one that, at a certain time of year he's coming in and I've seen him here. And then if you can, like, provide that food and cover, ideally, or in some cases water,
Mhm.
depending on where you're at, in areas that like allow those home ranges to sure overlap,
Mhm.
but also be separate.
Be independent, yeah.
I think that that's really a big advantage.
Well, it's interesting. A couple takes on that. Number one, I think anybody listening to this who runs enough cameras has found like certain deer. You would think they'd be here, but for some reason they only show on this camera, right? And like this might be 250 yards away. They're not on it.
Yeah,
Right? They don't. And we can get
especially early in the year.
yeah, we can get into the like. Well, maybe they said no, no, no. If they're on this camera, they could easily be on this camera. They're just not going down there for whatever
I've got a
reason.
real recent example. Last year, oh, what do we call that deer?
Unicorn.
Unicorn. Yeah, it's a unicorn buck. Real original, I know.
It's that time of year.
And yeah, I mean, it was nice, awesome deer,
Yeah.
mid 50s,
Mid-50s
4 year old,
easily, yeah.
for sure. We had history with
Yep.
him the year before, and that was an example of a clear cut that they
Mhm.
just moved in, and that's
Mhm.
just where he was, and it
Mhm.
wasn't that big. It was, I don't know, 5 acre
Yeah, and I mean,
clear cut.
considering the habitat on the rest of your property is good and the food was good and stuff.
Mhm. And so where that clear cut's at.
Yep.
And man, I would have thought for sure at some point he's going to make it up on, the he did make it into the west wind. Yeah, because he was, I mean, right
Yeah,
there.
right
That
there.
was literally like 150 yards from where I saw him bed at one point.
Mhm.
I would have thought for sure he would have made it up onto that power line or up, because he was way out on the edge
Yep.
of a big block of what habitat, or
Yep.
a timber block basically. And he never
He wouldn't
went
do
deeper
it.
than that. He just went the opposite direction, like out into the abyss of like the open ag fields and small blocky
So
timber. and
weird.
and
And I mean, those are the like invisible fences essentially that exist with these bucks. And I think some of it is habitat generated. I think some of it is social dynamic generated. I think the hierarchies and kind of the pecking order that's been laid out early in the season starts to really come into effect there. And it's like, yeah,
It's
this is
weird.
mine, this is his. I'm not gonna. I know if I venture over there, there's a chance because I mean, here's the thing that when two bucks, especially two mature bucks, get into it, it is just an energy drain on those deer, right? I mean, you found those two bucks tied up a couple years ago. And I mean, obviously those deer had gone through
Well, the
war and then got,
starvation and,
yeah.
yeah, dehydration
But the amount of effort and energy and oftentimes injury that comes with that, I mean,
kills them
yeah, and
a
you can
lot.
tell. Like, I mean, we always talk about buck personalities. I mean, there's deer that you see that deer's looking for a fight. Like he's just out there. He's looking for a fight. There's other deer. and big deer, mature deer, they don't want to get into it. If they don't have to, they don't want to get into it. They also are some of the same deer that I frankly think they don't want to chase. They want that doe almost to come to them, and it's just, I think it's mindset around that. But these invisible fences that we kind of, you know, perceive based on our camera and observational data are really strange. I mean, even on like my place at 130 acres in Ohio, one of the best 3-year-olds on my property is 10 point. I had him on 2 cameras on this ridge, and all the food's in the bottom. Never came down. Not a single picture of him down on the food plots anywhere on multiple cameras. He just, maybe that was the edge of his home range. He just didn't come down off of there. He stayed up on that top. Maybe there was a buck he didn't want to get into down there.
Do you have a low quality SD card on your?
Possible. Although I checked most of those, but he wasn't on it. Just didn't go. And I'm not saying he didn't end up in the food plot. I mean, we know what the detection on cameras and stuff is, but I mean, it just, sure didn't seem like he was moving down there. Like it seemed like that was the outer edge maybe of his home range. And then, that was it. That was the only part he was touching the property.
That might be all there is to it. It's not necessarily like, they're not all knowing. It's not like if I go here, there's buck is here.
Mm-hmm.
It could just be the fringe of like where he's comfortable. He's like, well, I go that way, typically.
I think the hard part, and it's not a knock to Sturgis. I mean, obviously the strategy around the kind of monoculture planning is to position these doe family groups around those plots. So this doe family group is on this plot, this doe family group's on that, and then effectively you've kind of spread them
helps
out.
With that too, yeah.
Yep. The kind of challenge there.
And they definitely do that.
Oh, no doubt, because those doe family groups don't move far.
Yeah.
I mean, they stick close to the food as long as there's good cover and stuff. The challenge to that is basically how we hunt, right? And in most cases, people are thinking, okay, well, October, November, etc. But take Kentucky for instance. Like, I need green beans in September, right? I'm not going to be hunting over brassicas the first week of September. I want green beans, and then maybe even in
something green, alfalfa,
clover. Maybe in even mid-September, same clover, alfalfa, or cereal grain, right? And then brassicas come in October. So I've got a month that I have to kind of plan for.
Or acorns, or Kentucky is, bait.
Could I exactly? But if I'm just talking food plot side, I've got to plant something early season. I can't just plant brassicas and hunt those brassicas in September.
Sure.
So it comes to with the kind of style of hunting and the opportunities of hunting that you have that are going to also dictate what you plant.
It's challenging, man. It's not like I don't think it's easy. I've got a few of them like shaping up. Dude, the reality is too, like it takes a ton of acreage to do this. It's not like you can't just look at 40 acres.
And equipment and money, just in general.
Yeah.
We talked about yesterday, you and I, not like to be like, oh, look what we spent. Like in a depressing way. It's like, dude, look what we did yesterday just to try to establish these things. And like most things don't go the way we plan.
I wonder what that'll, if I had to estimate. I mean, I think, oh man, it's like you got to take it all into account. But like for that 12 acres of beans, let alone we have a tractor, so I'm not accounting for any costs or gas, even for that. But it's like, and a sprayer, and we, I am gonna rent a no-till drill, but like,
fairly cheap.
I'm trying to think. So,
what'd you pay? Is it 12? Because I did 12 acres of fertilizer as well.
I paid just over $1,000 for the fertilizer for the beans.
So I was almost $1,400, I think, for mine.
Not that much worse for corn.
No, and you got probably bulk discount. I was buying in bags, so that's probably the difference right there.
Oh wow.
So about $200 difference.
Yeah. So
similar mixes though in terms of NPK focused.
$1,000. It was about $1,000 for the seed. It was that real world,
which is about what I spent on corn.
I bought it from a guy.
Bought it from a guy.
Oh, dude, he's way back in there. Just some,
He gives you a 20 back. It's got white powder.
He
all
wasn't
over
there.
It.
He wasn't even there. He was like, yeah, he's bow fishing down in Kentucky. He's like, just swing in. He's like, I don't lock the door. I could see why. Like when I got there, it was way back in there, and so I pulled way back in there, and he's just go down in the basement, and there's a pallet. Sweet, I'll leave you some cash. And I was there for like maybe 5.
That's a trust factor.
I was there for maybe 5. Yeah, I mean, I told him who I was. Yeah, I'd called him a couple.
I mean, but still, in today's society, that's a pretty big trust factor.
Yeah. And there wasn't much there to take,
either.
Yeah. But I was there for like 5 minutes, and like the neighbor kid comes rolling in. And in his truck.
Yeah.
Well, it was like his grandpa or something. I don't know. He comes in for smoking a cigarette in his day. And this kid goes like, where's the money at? I said, who are you? He's like, I'm the neighbor.
Give me the damn money.
I'm the neighbor. He said, come get the money. I said, oh, okay. So you gonna offer to help me to load these beans first, or are you just gonna take my money and run? He's like, no, just give me the money. I was like, okay.
Thanks, appreciate it, dude.
But anyways, $1,000 on that.
Touch on that real quick, because so I did 12 acres of corn in Kentucky. Probably cost me about the same, but and we'll talk about the weed management later. The biggest issue is, so I did some NutriCraze in Ohio, but in Kentucky I use this hybrid 85, which is basically a direct to consumer for field corn. And I think they were like $90 a bag, $95 a bag, something like that, which covers an acre. The problem is it's not Roundup Ready corn, right? When we talk about a lot of the forage beans that we're planting, whether you plant Eagle Seed or Real World, I mean, they're Roundup Ready forage beans. So obviously you plant them, you need to nuke stuff. It's Roundup Ready, nuke it. On the corn side, you've got essentially hybrid corn, but that's non-GMO, meaning it is not Roundup Ready corn. So the reason is Roundup Ready corn is about $300 per acre versus $95 to $100 per acre. And so you've kind of got these two, you gotta, for me, again, because it's not for production, it's for deer, like $300 an acre for a bag of corn is freaking expensive. So you opt for the other one, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit. The disadvantage is now you got to deal with the weeds in a different way than if you could just go out and spray glyphosate over it. So we'll talk about that trade-off, but yeah. So I mean, even right there, fertilizer and seed, that's $2,000, over $2,000.
$2,000, and then gly, so 2 quarts an acre.
Mm-hmm.
You get
2.5 gallon,
5. It's essentially 2.5 gallons, maybe slightly more than that.
Yep.
How much does one of those cost?
2.5 gallons is running like $120 now, $110.
All right, so call it like $2,300.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think that's it, right? That's what.
And you hope they grow. Yeah, we get free deer grow. So.
It's a ton of work.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt Archery.
Dude, where would we be without our Hoyt bows?
Probably shooting crossbows.
or a Matthews, yeah.
One and the same.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we love being Hoyt guys because you stand out. When you're in this room full of other people that shoot these other types of bows, I feel like the Hoyt guys just stick out.
Dude, it's just a legit bow. I mean, especially that carbon riser, man. I mean, I know that they've got several other aluminum lines as well, but for me, I'm shooting that RX5 in the carbon model. They've since come out with the RX7, and I can't tell you how much I love being a Hoyt guy amongst a sea full of Matthews guys. So we're out there, I think, proving them wrong, shooting 80 pounds and killing stuff.
Hey, man, if you want to get serious, get Hoyt.
Well, dude, back to doing it yesterday. So I had Dad spray on Monday or Tuesday, Monday, and I went up yesterday. So my mission was get to the co-op, pick up the spreader.
This is a full size fertilizer lime spreader. I mean, it's big. Yep.
Yeah, and then get it back to the farm, get it sprayed, and then take it back to the co-op. It's about 20-25 minutes. And then go pick up those beans and then get home. And if I had leftover time, I was going to throw out some more trophy rocks to get some couple cameras started. So it was going fine. I was it was fine. When I got to that co-op, I was I paid for it. And then I'm looking at the spreader. I'm I know I've picked it up with this truck before, but I was it's a pin and not
it's a toe pin.
Yeah, it's a toe pin, not a ball and hitch. So I was I had 2 hitches with me, fortunately, but I was they both have balls on them. And I had a socket set, but obviously nothing big enough to take that off.
Yeah, you're not cranking that.
So I was do you guys don't have anything here, do you, to take, and they're no. And they're, moving 1,000,000 miles an hour this time of year. They got broken conveyor belts and whatever. So they're just, you might want to check Napa. So I went to Napa Auto Parts. They tried for a bit. It was no
negative.
The guy came out of the back. He's no, guys, it didn't work. So he gave me the name of another guy. Fortunately, there was this guy was legit. It was just you could even tell his place was open. Just like a side auto mechanic, auto repair place, auto mechanic. And dude was legit, like in his 60s, still working hard,
Mm-hmm.
and he's like, let me see that thing. Took it in the back and he got it off with an impact driver. So I got my hitch back, no ball, went back, picked up my spreader, heading home.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of weight, dude.
I was gonna say, how much is in that spreader?
It was a lot of weight. I had 4,800 pounds, plus the weight of the spreader, which is probably, I don't know, they're probably 600 or 800 pounds conservatively.
Yeah.
So
at least
5,500 pounds maybe.
Uh-huh.
And I'm running the Toyota 4Runner.
Mm-hmm.
So I got most of the way home. Like, I was going safe, max 40, 40, 45. And it's mainly.
Is it 2-wheel or 4-wheel on the?
It's 2 on either side.
2 on either side. So you've got dual axle, basically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so it's fine. It's riding, pretty good. I can feel the weight for sure. But I was within 2 miles probably of the farm, and it's where the pavement turns into gravel road. And I'm coming down this hill, and it's a sharp left-hand turn, and I know it, so I'm going real slow, like, just taking my time. And when I go to make that turn, I'm making the turn, and like I just feel like my ass end of my truck just keeps going, keeps sliding down the hill, and I look to the left, I can see the thing coming, and it's like slow motion. It's not like
what are you gonna do?
Nothing you can do. It's not like I was going too fast. I was in 2-wheel. I don't know if that would have changed anything necessarily, but
I think once it started probably, it was power sliding on that gravel.
Yeah, so it came in on me and crumpled my back bumper a little bit.
And back to the repair
which
shop.
I'm more than familiar. I know the sound, just like, I know when it's like a lethal injury or when it's not. I just hear, and I see it crunch in my bumper. I'm like, shoot. And fortunately, like, it didn't take me off the road. It could have been a lot worse.
Yeah. Well, we talked about how top heavy those things are because of all that weight. Like, I mean, it easily could have rolled, or
could have been disastrous.
Yeah.
Could have been disastrous. But we kind of came to a halt, and there's nobody out there. I was, like I said, I was pretty close to the farm, and instantly I'm like, what can I do? How can I? And so my first move was to put it in 4-wheel. And I was like, I'm just gonna, I'm in a position here where I might be able to just kind of, if I can pull, I can creep out of it, because I'm just jackknifed.
Yep.
All the wheels are on the ground still and stuff. Before I got a chance to do that, I had a guy come over the hill, and I he stopped for it. I said, hey, do you mind just hang out for a minute, just watch me do that, for whatever, moral support, and
cheer me on, please.
And made a friend. I figure out where he's at. I mean, it's good to know people.
Yeah.
And so fortunately that worked. I put it in 4-wheel, and I kind of crept right out of it, and it straightened out, and we went. It was just that was kind of
the gravel thing. I mean, I think we talked about it on the podcast. I don't know. It was a few weeks ago when I got the new trailer, and I was loading my my new tractor onto this new trailer, and it doesn't have a dovetail, so it sits a little bit higher. And the tractor's heavy, and I've got that drill in the back. Well, I'm putting it up, and I've loaded it and unloaded it on the trailer before, not the new one. I'm putting it up on that trailer in a gravel driveway, and it may be a little bit of a slant downhill, but not much. And like all of a sudden, like I'm on the trailer, and like the trailer and truck are moving. I thought like the brake let loose, right? Which was in retrospect stupid, because the first thing I did was I jumped off the tractor onto the ground as this thing's moving, jumped into the truck, and we hit the brakes. Well, it wasn't, they were locked. It was power sliding on the gravel, because all that momentum lifted my truck. It put the back end of the trailer down, so it lifted up where the ball and hitch is, lifted those back tires off the ground, and then nose pushed the front tires, which now in retrospect, I've got a 4-ton jack under the back, so it doesn't drop when I get up on it. But that gravel side of things is, when you've got weight and stuff, the way that those things can move and slide around, it ain't messing around with.
Crazy. Yeah, they're just, it's like this 5,000-pound thing. It's just like
you're not going to stop it. I mean, that's a shitload of momentum coming.
I couldn't have been going more than like 10 miles.
Doesn't matter. It's just all that weight.
Yeah.
All that weight just kind of going with it. And once it starts power sliding like that, you're not doing. And I think also we talked about, a pin in the hitch versus on a ball, and the ability to help control that a little bit better. But yeah, I mean,
So that was not great.
no, that was the start of this trip.
That was not great. Yeah, I mean, it was the third way into it anyway. So,
Yeah.
so I got it the rest of the way back to the,
Mhm.
yeah, and I was not happy about it.
Got to the farm.
Yeah, the truck was plenty drivable. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it's not even that bad. It's parked out there. You can see it.
We'll just pop it out.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of it, maybe. There's.
Buff it.
I'll show you.
Oh, I saw it.
You saw it?
Yeah.
Yeah. The top one, it could probably be popped out. The bottom one's the bumper's gonna need replaced. That's a non-insurance deal right there.
Yeah.
Sure. So got it back, got the tractor hooked up. It went pretty smooth, other than like honestly, I don't know what happened. I ended up putting all that fertilizer out in about 2/3 of the thing. So I've got a third of my.
So how does that work on there? Is it like
a setting,
a lever setting on it?
Yeah, it's like there's a reader on it. So there's a big gear and a small gear. I was on the small gear, and I talked to the guy before I left. I said, "Hey, help me,
help me,
help me!
Help.
I don't know what I'm doing." And so we got it figured out. So I needed to be at 5 was my setting, and that would put out 400 pounds
per acre.
Over 12 acres is 4,800 pounds. And that's it. Yeah, you loosen the thing, you put the setting. It's pretty clear. It's right on 5. Tighten it down. There's a gauge to engage the track.
The track, yeah.
Track.
Yeah, because when you're driving it, it's not spinning. When you're bringing it to the house, you have that disengaged. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so I engage that, and then there's you pull a thing, pull a rope. There's a lot of moving parts, So and there's a PTO hooked up. So the PTO is running the spreader.
Gotcha.
And the wheels are driving the whatever, the conveyor belt that's bringing it back to the spreader.
Yep.
And so either the setting was wrong, but I don't think so. I mean, I think we did it right, or my passes were too close. And I'm thinking maybe more the latter, but I mean, dude, I was I was trying to gauge it off of, I was looking back at like how far it was spreading it out. I'd say like from tire track to tire track, I was probably like, probably 15 or 20 yards.
Really?
Like I felt pretty spread out.
Yeah.
Not like a sprayer track at all. Like I was pretty good. And I don't know. Like I said, I got maybe 2/3 of the way through it, and I look back and I'm like, I don't think I'm spreading anything.
I mean, I would assume there's we talked about it with Eric, like the side dressing ability. So I would assume that there's, as it rains, like some of that leaches through the soil.
Sure.
Through there.
Yeah, but there's definitely some that won't get anything. So I mean, it'll be interesting, I guess, to see what the difference is, but also a bummer. It's like, yeah, I want to feel like I got
got it all covered,
got my money's worth, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's and obviously, like, we're not soil scientists by any means, but the whole fertilization and how these things eat up those nutrients that essentially they're not putting it back, right? I mean, it's there's a net loss in the soil when you're growing it, and it really seems like it's around corn and beans, right? Those are like the nutrient hogs. Like, I mean, it's not that you can't grow them, but I mean, if you don't fertilize corn, odds are you're not growing corn, right? Whereas like clover, brassicas, oats, whatever. I mean, I rarely, maybe I put some nitrogen down, but I rarely fertilize for any of those things anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it will be interesting to see. My guess will be that there's no difference visually. I bet that they kind of look about the same.
Yeah.
Be interesting to see like how the deer react
like if
to
there's
that.
A nutrient difference.
Yeah, like if they just prefer the outer perimeter, or I don't know. We'll make up for it. I mean, it's honestly, I've never had that much food to begin with. The most I've ever done is I did a 4 and a 3, so I had like 7 total acres of beans. Now I've got them connected. So regardless, it'll be the best situation I've ever had.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I'm optimistic on that. I went the rest of the day with after that there was no further issues. I got those beans successfully, and I did get a few more trophy rocks out. I mean, dude, I just
sent me a picture last night, right?
I 2 or 3
2 or 3 year old.
Yeah. I'm starting in my mind to like be like just I don't know, recall or kind of
who's gonna show up where?
Yeah, where these bucks are at. And like, unfortunately, we've got access to enough acreage even off of our own property to like that I've been able to figure out where some of these deer summer and fall ranges are at. So it's cool. Like I have some rock solid no pun intended, like trophy rock spots,
Mhm.
and it's not just trophy. I mean, I do err on the side of those trophy rocks. I just,
More difficult to find than they used to be.
yeah, the co-op had the big boys.
The big ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, those 18 pounders or
The
whatever
big
they are.
boys. Tractor Supply, like, they had some, but I had to go in the back, like it was in the supply room. I don't know if it's just this time of year.
I don't think you should be back here, sir.
I don't think that people. I don't think they know that, like, the spring and
No.
summer. So they think
Those
it's,
buyers are buying for August, September, October.
they think it's like a hunting thing, so it should be out
Yeah.
in the
No,
fall.
no. We need them now.
Fall.
We want the minerals out now.
I think
They're
I
crushing
think I've
my
got
mineral
15
already.
well, not even including 17 trophy rocks out.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Just in Ohio.
That'll do it. Yeah, it all just became a bit saltier in the ground in Ohio. Yeah, I mean, now's the time to get it out. I mean, they're definitely. I've seen like a big uptick here in the last week or two of them. Probably more rain, more green up. More water that they're consuming. They're crushing the minerals in the salt right now.
It's almost annoying, like, to see them with flat antlers. It's like, get out of here.
I know.
What are you doing?
I feel like every deer I'm seeing now is just a 4-point.
Be full grown or be nothing.
just a brow and a beam.
Yeah. It's like seeing them just at their weakest, like, it's like seeing your dad, like, what's a comparison of that,
When he had no mustache. The first time I saw him with no mustache, I'm like, dude, I've never seen you without
seeing
a mustache.
hermit crab out of their shell. It's like,
get out of here.
I'd rather not see you in this way.
Glue some of that shit back on there. Yeah. No, it's
you're a disgrace.
Yeah, what's wrong with you? Yeah, I think that as you get into this time of the year, I mean, the hard part is the fruits of these labors often don't show themselves until October, November. It's beans are the exception there, but corn especially, like, I don't see deer crushing corn in August. See them crushing beans in August. But unless you're hunting early season, like in September, you may catch a week or so of good bean hunting in Ohio, and then it kind of fades off until November.
Yeah.
Probably late October at least.
Yeah, these recent escapades too, like, they definitely beg per some of our recent conversations about, like, is it worth it to plant your own stuff?
Well, so obviously we talked about some numbers and calculations there. The one thing
financially, yeah, dude. I mean, what's it going to cost me? $10,000 to leave 12
That's
acres?
exactly what it was. That's what I was telling, because Emily said the same thing to me. She's like, man, you going down there and spending time and doing this. And obviously I'm not a farmer. Like my problem is, so I've got corn to grow with that Tar River, not the best, but I mean, I've got good rows that are showing. The problem is with warming temperatures and the corn growing also has the grass, right? Because I nuked all that stuff 3 weeks before I planted corn. So that was back in March. Well, the grass wasn't growing then. So now I have to deal with this post-emergent issue. So I fertilized everything yesterday on the Ohio farm, on the Kentucky farm. And I've got a lot of grass issues. I've got good corn coming up, 6-8 inch corn coming up, and I've got pretty solid. I mean, you can see the color change of where the rows are, right? So you can identify them, but the grass is thick. And so, I'm sitting out there spending $2,000 fertilizing, and it's like, I feel like I'm just fertilizing weeds.
Yeah.
So now I've got to come back and kill, which I've found two things. Number one, I think I mentioned even on Instagram, atrazine is a controlled herbicide. So you have to have an applicator's license to buy it and use it. Stupid environmentalist. I could use glyphosate that kills everything, but this is selective and I can't use it. I don't know. Maybe it's something that I'm not reading in. But there's a couple other ones. The one, I'm not even going to try to pronounce what it is, but the brand name is Impact. And it's so crazy. Like we were using an ounce per acre.
Yeah.
Like 1 ounce per acre. Can't pull the Dwayne Prussia method and be like,
it's powerful. It's very, very powerful.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, dude, that
it's expensive too. $400 for a 30-ounce bottle.
That is the consideration though. Like beyond time and money, which are key factors. It's the success rate. You're like, what are the odds that after I spend, maybe it's less. So let's say
I feel confident in beans, and I don't.
I don't know, dude.
I mean, I feel confident.
I'm walking away from this with 2/3 of my things sprayed at a crinkled up bumper.
Yeah, but I still think like when you get beans in the ground, they'll grow unless the deer mow them. Like those beans are going to grow.
I hope. Well, you got to get them in the ground successfully.
Yeah.
So, dude, the third part of this I didn't even mention is I'm renting a no-till drill from the county, which is a piece of crap compared to like a real,
Yeah,
if you're going to buy your own drill.
sure, but it gets the job done.
No offense to the county,
Mhm,
it's just a public implement.
mhm,
Like,
and it is a no-till.
thing gets
It's not
beat.
just a grain drill, it's a no-till.
It's a no-till.
Yeah, which is I the more research I've done, like, beans and no-till drilling go together really well. Corn and no-till drilling does not.
Hmm.
Like, a lot of the things that I've talked
Are,
recently farmer-wise, they're just like, you know, corn likes to have those kinda fluffy areas to expand the roots, get a better, seed to soil. It's not perfectly round, so it doesn't drop through a lot of those feed cups as well.
makes sense.
Um
Are you going to fertilize? What side question?
Mhm.
Do those real world beans come with inoculant?
Yes.
I don't think I got any.
No, I think they're already on it. I think it's already coated.
Oh, it's on it, not
Mhm.
like a separate. It was Eagle Seed that I bought back in the day. It came with like a separate, like,
Yep.
little baggie
Inoculant that
of
you
the
had to, like,
inoculant.
lay them out and wet them and stuff, and that was a pain in the ass.
I did it in the seed bin.
Yeah, which you're not supposed to. You're supposed
That's
to
what I
let
said to do.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I had a. We did them with a ferminator one year.
Oh, you know what? I think
Honestly, thinking back on it, dude, one of the best bean successes I've ever had planted with the ferminator, like straight up planted with the ferminator.
I think you had, yeah, because
I have to get back to that.
I think it was the inoculant from, what is it? Is it Agway or it's something Ag?
Eagle.
Yeah, but they get it from Delta Ag is who it makes it. It's an inoculant from Delta Ag. It's in the Eagle Bean stuff.
Okay.
I don't know if it is anymore, but it used to be you had to mix a slurry. So you would mix that with water and get and then you would put the seed in it, and then you would lay the seed out and dry it. Then you would plant it.
Oh wow.
Pain in the ass.
Yeah, that's extreme.
And it's all legumes, right? Corn you don't need that for, but all legumes. So clover and stuff has an inoculant on it.
Interesting.
Yeah. So any peas, beans, inoculants.
Gotcha.
Yep. Get it out of the ground.
So yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful that those beans. I don't know. I hope. I did it. It's funny to recall though. Like one of the best years of beans I've ever had was the first year that we planted. It was this one of those. It was more than this, but the same area. No fertilizer, no lime, just beans, and planted them with the ferminator.
Crazy.
Yeah, we had a serious amount of ragweed in there, but I didn't spray it afterwards.
Just
I could have fixed that.
But it was, I mean, the question, obviously people listen to this and maybe you're thinking about planting this stuff, maybe you're planting it already. The question is it worth it? Like, and I'm not saying food plots in general, I'm saying summer food plots, because no offense to anybody that takes pride in their brassica plots, because I do, it's easy. Like literally brassica will grow on my truck seat. Corn and beans will not. So I can go out there, I can spray, I can nuke an acre area, and I don't even have to till, right? I can just go out there and spread brassica, it'll grow.
Yeah, those are my kind of food plots, man.
It'll grow, right? So I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't take money and time, because it does, but it's pretty easy. On the flip side, corn and beans is not.
It's challenging.
I mean, it
Well, it is and it isn't. It's just like
challenging.
It's just like anything, dude. The more of it you try to take on, like the bigger of a project it is. Like it.
I mean, do you think it's worth it having corner beans over just planting all fall plots?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm gonna say yeah. I think yes,
yeah,
for sure.
Because people would argue, and I think it is area based. Like Sturgis would argue with us because he's in major ag country. There's beans and corn everywhere.
I'm in major ag. Yeah, but it gets cut and then it's gone and it's irrelevant. I think it is, but also it might not be. Like I don't know. I could probably go and plant a 12-acre brassica field and have almost, if not more in some case, senses of the word, benefit than I am from the beans. Like the reason, I don't know, because I'm trying to offer some diversity.
Sure.
I want to have a summer food source. I do. I want to have some opportunities surrounding that. Dude,
and that's for keeping some of those bucks, making sure they're getting nutrition. What's that goal?
One for sure benefit that I would say that beans has over brassicas is like when you have heavy snow cover. Because they,
agree. Yeah, because that gets.
But when was the last time that happened? Like it happens 2 or 3 days a year these days. So I can't necessarily say that's why I'm doing it.
I will say that I've seen, if you've got a really good producing forage bean plot that puts on a lot of pods. I like having that carrying over into February and early March, whereas my brassica is long freaking gone by
Well,
then.
but they would be if you had 12 acres of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. I don't honestly know.
It's an interesting. I do think it goes back to how you're going to hunt. Like if you need to hunt in September, you probably want beans. Like they'll probably be worth it. But if you're not going to hunt until October,
no doubt. Yeah, that
you can get away with it.
The beans give you an early season option, and even I don't know for sure. Like it would be an interesting side by side comparison to watch like a 5-acre bean field versus a 5-acre brassica field throughout the month of October.
Dude, a 5-acre brassica field is giant.
Yeah, it's huge.
And I mean, not saying that. I mean, obviously, acres to acres, they're the same. That's not what I'm saying.
It's actually the same size as a 5-acre bean field.
Yeah. It's the amount. I mean, not many people are out there putting in a 5-acre brassica plot. It's a lot of food.
It's the amount of tonnage. Yeah.
And it's cheaper probably, right? I mean, to plant 5 acres of brassica versus to plant 5 acres of beans, I would assume it's significantly cheaper. What's an acre of brassica seed cost us? $30?
Depends who you buy it from. I don't know.
Probably $30.
That's expensive.
I mean, we just paid. What'd you pay for your beans? $80 bucks.
I'm trying not to think about it, dude. I spent a lot of money on deer hunting. I bought from Stealth Cam. I bought
the boxes.
I guess I got the boxes from like
Flambeau or
Flambeau or something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, $4.99.
Yeah.
That's a good price when Amazon limits you to 4 at a time.
Oh yeah.
So I bought them from different places and stuff. So yeah, I got 12 of those
suckers.
I bought 10 or 12 steaks.
Yep.
From Stealth Cam makes those.
Yeah.
HME makes those. Mm-hmm. Solid. I'm excited about those.
That's key because you can position anywhere, anyway.
Huge.
Mm-hmm.
And then I bought the harnesses. I bought them initially from some, I don't know, Chinese company on Amazon.
To connect to the Dakota lithiums.
And they're the wrong size DC plugs. So I went back and I was able to find them. I guess Stealth sells those individually too.
Did they?
Yeah. So I bought 10 of those this morning. They're like $11 a piece.
And there you go. Yeah, I mean, that's a game changer because those little Dakota 10 amp lithiums, they last all the year plus.
How do you charge those?
You'll have you can buy just a standard like I don't know if it's a tending charge or whatever, but just plugs into the wall, has 2 alligator clips on it.
I have that.
Yep. Okay. I mean, it comes with a lot of different stuff. All right, I use them for 4-wheelers and stuff like that too.
But yeah, I've got money going out here. I mean, this is the time of year. It's like we're working hard, we're making it, but I'm also like I'm getting everything in now. I got at some point here, I got to start building arrows for all you guys.
It becomes worth it, especially like when you see like plots succeeding, deer utilizing them, like everything ties perfectly together. The downfall is, and this is life, right? Shit's gonna fail. So there's a high likelihood. I've spent a lot of money and more time on those corn plots in Ohio and Kentucky. Good chance they don't work, that they fail. Even with all the things I'm doing, fertilizing, killing it post-emergent, grasses, like they just may not succeed. And so if that's the case, and I had that doubt when I called you yesterday. It was like, shit, dude, what do I do? Do I drill beans into these things?
I called you.
Do I brassica these things? Like, I don't know what I'm doing because it's immediately you've got to go. And it's also a time limitation, right? It's like, well, if I'm going to do beans, I'm going to have to get these in the ground here in the next couple of weeks. If I'm not going to do beans and I'm going to do just to see what happens and go to fall, but do I want to put fall plots where I'm accessing? Probably not.
Yeah, dude, it's stressful because it's like you lay the whole thing out in your mind, and like when something doesn't work out, it's like, well, that's gonna affect. It's like it's challenging, and you have limited time to do it.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Stealth Cam.
Dude, where would we be without our cell cams?
I would definitely be divorced at this point.
Yeah, I hear that.
I mean, the fact is I spent more time checking cameras than I actually did hunting prior to cell cameras. Now, at least, my wife can enjoy me being in the comfort of my own home, buried in my phone, checking those pictures.
Yeah, 100%. And dude, when it comes to trail cameras and definitely cell cameras, reliability is, I think, the number one thing that we're looking for. Stealth Cam just has a long reputation of reliable cameras, and ultimately, that is the most important thing to us. They have to work.
In terms of reliability, there's not a better camera on the market than Stealth Cam, whether you're talking about the Fusion X, the Reactor, or the DS4K Transmit. And most of them are under $200.
Stealthcam.com. Check them out. Before we get off the subject, dude, I do want to talk about we did like brassicas versus
Mm-hmm.
beans, and I don't
Yeah, I don't know.
know.
Early season, obviously beans.
Yeah, some advantages there, but corn, I want to say the clear advantage there. I guess first of all, it shares that characteristic of beans in that, like with heavy snow and ice cover, it is
Yep.
up, which is huge, and the fact that it provides cover, for
Mm,
ingress and egress to
yeah.
your
Yeah.
box blind or to your tree stand is massive too. That I think is one of the only food sources that you can plant that you can just in and of itself manipulate deer movement with, which
Absolutely.
is huge.
Yeah.
Is huge. The fact that I can like leave a bunch of it behind me and
Mm-hmm.
and carve out a
Cut.
specific
Mm-hmm.
section to create edge, to create
Yep.
pinch points, like
Yeah.
that's the deer hunter's crop right there.
I mean, that's why, obviously I would love I've like a 2 acre and 2 4 acres. Yeah, 2 acre and 2 4 acre fields. But then I've got like thousands of yards of screen that I put switchgrass in, but in year one, switchgrass isn't gonna be tall enough. So um I use corn. And so my fear is that if that corn doesn't come up, I've got it's as detrimental as not having the fields because I've got no screening now.
Yeah.
In the
It's
access,
make
it's
or
gonna
break.
change the access of my entire farm from what I had planned.
It's make or break. Dude, it's such a big deal. I can recall episodes of Midwest Whitetail with Winky, and I'm sure he's not, there's probably a ton of guys that do it. It's like literally the tree stand the strategy is put a box blind in the middle of the field, mow a big enough area that you can like shoot,
Yep.
and then just lanes out to
I think
wherever.
Mark Drury killed that 214 that way.
And that's just it. It's just like it's a corn trap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, they're just gonna all of a sudden corn stalks are moving, boom, pops out, there it is, shoot it.
Which is awesome. Yeah, I mean that's what that
You're manipulating
standing corn allows you to do.
Yeah, it's well, and again, that goes back to if
you
you're
can grow it.
well, yeah, or if you're relying on a farmer, you can't do that. Right? You can't unless that's the part he's leaving for you. Which what do we end up saying? Is it $600 to $1,000 an acre?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So I mean, if I want 10 acres left, right, 6 to 10 grand.
Here it is, real simple. I think this is a good way to think about it, because we have obviously had almost full podcast trying to figure this out, but like I got a pretty clear answer from the agronomist at the co-op that really smart guy, really enjoy him. He's smart. He said, well, if you're going to pay market value,
$6 ish
for the crop, he's like, which is probably fair. So like in that case, the farmer's not losing any money. That's what they would have paid it for. And they're just, factor in the inconvenience, right? It would just be the average bushel per acre times the going rate for that crop at the time that it's harvested.
So what and you said, what are you producing there? Bushels? 100
to 150 bushels of corn per acre at about $6 or $6.50 per bushel.
So at $100, it's $600 you would pay him $600 to leave that acre.
So at 150 bushels,
that'd be 900
times 6.5.
Oh, times 6.5. That's 1,000.
We'll do times 6. Yes, $900 per acre.
Yeah, so if we want to leave 12 acres, it's $10,800.
And 150 might be high. That's where I think you just ask your farmer, say, hey, but before you come at them with a number and say, I'll pay you this to lead that.
Yeah, what do you
maybe
want
just say, hey man, we've been working together for a couple of years here. I'm trying to get some better stuff out of for my deer hunting here. Like, can you help me understand a cost, to leave X amount of acreage? You probably have an idea of where you want it. And those two things that you need to find out would be their average bushel per acre that they're getting.
Yep.
And just the cost per bushel, the going rate bushel. So if they say, well, on this part of the farm here, I'm hoping to get 100 bushels an acre, which I think is maybe closer. So figure that number times 6 is $600.
Which, and again, the hard part there is like, let's say you own the farm, right? And, money's always an issue for everybody. But, if you want 10 acres, that's $6,000. The alternative is...
Wait, though. If you own how many acres?
Well, if you want 10 acres left.
Out of how many that's getting farmed?
Let's say 50.
So if I have 50 acres times 75, that's 3,750. And so just let's say it's a wash. And if you want 6 acres left,
10 acres left, that'd be 6,000. So it'd be like 2,250 I would owe them.
Out of pocket.
2,250. Yeah.
Out of pocket.
Yep.
Yeah, and 6 acres is a lot of corn.
Which that would make sense, I think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, again, and I leverage that against the alternative, which is I plant grains or brassica and cereal grains or brassica. It probably cost me a couple $100 to
Mhm.
plant 6 acres.
Mhm.
So that there is, I mean, this is a deep subject when it comes down to number one, as food plotters, we are not farmers, right? It really,
Mm.
if you're looking, yeah, if you're evaluating the benefits of it, I mean, you really got to put it to the test because establishing brassicas, corn, clover, or cereal grains is significantly cheaper than corn or beans.
Yeah. The corn has some clear advantages. Now that you press me on it, I don't have I don't have a rock solid thing to say, beans versus
Brassica.
brassicas. I don't really know.
Mm-hmm.
I do think that I just don't like brassicas that I don't know. Like I want to put them in an acre and a half to 2 acre
Mm-hmm.
blocks. I
Mm-hmm.
think they work great for staging areas, but
Yeah.
I just for whatever reason
They produce a lot of tonnage,
a
but they
ton of
go
tonnage.
fast in my experience.
Yeah.
But it's because I don't have 5 acres of them. I've got 1 acre or 2 acres of it.
Yeah. I don't know. Like for whatever reason, I just want that's kind of my
All
rule
the
of
fall
thumb.
plots go fast. I mean, that's the bottom line is if you've got two
They won't
acres,
though if you have a supporting
exactly.
grain.
I think that's the key in the intermix, right? Is that if you have a supporting grain that is the destination, could be 2 acres, could be 12, right? Like you're doing. And then on the perimeters of that, you've got half-acre kill plot, 1 acre plot, 2 acre brassica plot. Those plots will last much, much longer because of the offset of the destination plot. Even if it's not very huntable, your other plots will become way more successful because they're able to be hunted longer or they're providing food longer.
Not even just the plots. I mean, dude, that if you look at your property like a hub on a wheel type
Mm-hmm.
approach, that is the hub.
It is.
It's like without that, you're hunting a property willy nilly. You're like,
Yes.
it's so many people. I've done that. It's just like I don't know. Like there's
Mm-hmm.
ridges and there's this and there's that. Without a central location, that we know that those deer are going to at some point in time.
Yep.
How do you hunt it? Like how what do you base a strategy off of?
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's a core piece to a deer hunting strategy on a piece of property is having a destination food source. All the surrounding stuff that's hunting strategy. All
Mm-hmm.
of the how the ridges and your hinge cuts and all that bedding areas go into that. It's based on where they are at in relation to that destination food source.
Yeah, because I think Kentucky's gonna just the way that it accesses it. Some of the places I could go in and say, okay, if corn fails, I could drill beans in there and nuke it, and it'll be fine. Ohio sets up better for that. Where I've planted a couple of the corn plots, if those would fail, I'd put them in beans, and then I would just change my strategy of where my stand setups are. Instead of maybe cutting through a cornfield or along a cornfield, I'd cut up into the woods and sit in between it and bedding area more to stay off of the bean field, but utilize that bean opportunity for number one, saving those plots to put something in, and then building more destination food of beans versus because the corn failed.
Mm.
The alternative there is I make them all brassica plots, which isn't a bad thing, but I still think that deer like going to those larger grain fields, or even a larger clover or alfalfa field. And those smaller cereal grain brassica plots, those are your hunt plots.
Mhm.
It's high production, short term, tight area. It'll establish, it can handle the browse, and you can kill a deer on that. If you're hunting
Clover is too. I would put
yeah,
clover in that.
yeah. If you're hunting a 10-acre, bean field, that's a tough bow hunt.
Yeah.
Gun's a different ballgame. That's a tough bow hunt.
Mm-hmm.
If you're hunting a 10-acre bean field, but you've got a 1 acre or half-acre brassica in the corner tucked in where your stand is, you're in a much better situation for a harvest opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
That's where the diversity pulls these deer through. From instead of a monoculture of a food plot, the diversity is going to pull that deer to those brassicas because it's change up green here, grain there. So I think sometimes people get hung up on that because they want to plant just even think of about a 5-acre brassica plot. That's a very hard plot to bow hunt, super hard.
It depends. It depends. I mean, like certain just the way that it lays is like
Well, that's why I asked about like that pinch for you. Like if it was 2 acres narrowed down through a gap, 2 acres, right?
yeah,
Right in the middle,
can be awesome.
that's a killer plot. If it's a giant rectangle of 5 acres, I mean, you're gonna hunt inside corners and stuff, but it's tough. That's a tough hunt. Deer could pop out anywhere and have access to big brassica.
Yeah, well, and it's not rocket science where they'll pop out in most cases. Like if you branch out from the food source and say, all right, where are they bedding, right? That's
Mm-hmm.
the hub and the wheel approach I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about. It's like, okay, different groups of deer are going to come from XYZ direction,
Mm-hmm.
area. And then you just look at it. I mean, they're and a deer, especially a mature buck, is not going to just enter the field like
Mm-hmm.
upwind, or yeah, upwind.
I
Like,
think I've got my shot called in Kentucky. I could tell you right now, without even a bean growing, when they establish there, that's where I'll kill my velvet buck.
yeah, you got a
Just
spot.
know,
And that's great. I mean, that's
just know it.
awesome. It gives you a lot of
Mm-hmm.
confidence when you're planting a food plot to know, hey, I can kill them from this spot,
Yeah,
and
it's just one of those ones you feed. It's at so again, thinking early September, right? Likely south or southwest wind would be my guess. Evening hunt, south southwest wind coming in essentially from the north and east. So basically coming in directly into the wind. There's a little island, right? There's overgrown nothing field here. Hopefully corn here. There's a little island of trees that I'm gonna have a hang on in. And then I've got this horseshoe of an acre of beans, and then just super thick bedding off of this ridge right here. And this would be like the leeward side of that ridge. And that they're just, I can see where they're just kind of coming up and popping right into that plot
yeah.
all the time. So if I can get it established, I think that's where I saw that big 4-year-old last year on camera.
Mm,
So if he made it through, he'd be a stud and he'd be right there.
hmm. What was down there before? You just said, yeah, just like grass,
It's
huh?
just the grass.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just
And you didn't
nothing.
get cameras down there till November.
Yeah, because remember I set one when we were in Kansas, and then it didn't work. So it was when I got back from Kansas, I went and reset them.
Mm, yeah,
Um,
dude. I'd have a slammer down there. You got mineral? You got a camera on mineral?
yep. Oh, I've got lots of bucks on camera.
Yeah.
Nothing like crazy big. They did kill. Remember I told you like there was like a sheriff's deputy hunting there when I bought it, and he pulled. I talked to the neighbor. He killed a decent 8 point back there. Sound like a 140-inch 8 point.
Did he?
In the far back corner.
Mm,
I saw where he had his camera and corn pile and stuff all set up. But so that back, we kind of went back and forth. I've got beans on both sides with a little fence gap. I think I'm gonna do a big clover field, and then I'm gonna do a brassica or grain field on the far side. But again, a lot of my strategy is probably going to change if this corn fails. I'm going to have to get much more conservative with where I might not even plant. Like, this is the other thing coming from a guy who doesn't have a lot of open area to plant, like I finally do. And where I've got like a 5 or 6, actually, that one backfield is almost 8 acres. I might not even plant 4 acres of that because if I plant there, those deer are going to be right where I come in, right? I might leave that as just fallow field and plant the far edge so it gives me more buffer from where they're feeding to how I can access that if the corn doesn't come up.
yeah.
And that's the kind of stuff that if you're processing your layout, I mean, it completely changes your plan and your strategy. Your major sacrifices would have to be made because to me, access trumps any of that stuff.
Mhm.
If there's a deer in a 5 acre bean field every night and you're just walking through it, you're screwed.
Yeah.
You're not gonna kill that deer.
Yeah. Yeah. It can present some challenges too. Like, that east wind that we're talking about, like, I used to be able to go right through that field
Mm-hmm.
because it's like there's nothing there. It's
Nothing.
fine. I could just, now it's going to be a bean field, and my access for that is going to have to change.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff I think it's hard now because of the unpredictability of what are these summer plots going to do. Right, fall plots are fairly predictable. I mean, if the first couple weeks we get rain and we get germination, you got plots, right? If it gets dry, you don't. These summer plots, I mean, you could have a strategy that you think is going to be golden, something fails, and your entire plan is down the toilet. And you're going to have to change it based on having to figure out, are you going to plant those with fall plots? You're going to leave them fallow because for me, those corn plots, if they don't grow, 90% chance that they just are left fallow this year simply because I don't want to put food there that is I'm visible out of, like anything low, beans, brassicas, oats, whatever. If I'm going to put food there, it has to be corn where the deer are in the cornfield, right? And I'm concealed from that. because of the access aspect of it. So it's not like I can just go back in and say, well, corn didn't work. Let me put brassica in here. Changes the game.
You could do like plot screen, but it's
It's getting close on that now.
yeah.
I mean, your plot screen
You'd have
is
to make
usually
a call.
in May.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if you like within the next 2 weeks, if your corn ain't coming up, you'd have to.
I mean, it's coming up right now, and I'm gonna hit it with that that grass and broadleaf selective for corn next week, or end of next week into Memorial Day weekend. And so that'll nuke that back, and then it'll be early June. Probably the next week I'll come down for beans, and if that grass is dying back and my corn looks good, I think I'm in the game.
Mhm.
If it is struggling or somehow I nuke the corn with it,
Yeah,
we're out.
those weeds will get away from you quick too, man. It's amazing how
Oh, dude, you should see.
2-3 weeks. It's like
I posted this picture on our Instagram story, but like this was all dead, right? Like this is the grass that's come up, and there's your corn row basically.
wow.
And I mean, it went from nothing. I mean, dead. That's 2.5 weeks.
Interesting.
And some of that corn or
That's all grass out there.
Some of that grass is 15 inches tall.
And you just think that's because you sprayed before?
Yep. As soon as it got warm, as soon as soil temperature got up, that entire seed bed got active.
Interesting.
So that's the problem is like if in that where that corn is laid out, I mean, there's a nice row there.
Dude, since you mentioned that, we should talk about that real quick. I know you got to wrap up here. Interesting observation on my burn. So like we're planting these beans, that's about a third of it.
Mm-hmm.
On that third, we didn't turn it over. We basically burned it, and that was it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We'd sprayed it the same as we did it. So just quick recap. We sprayed everything in October.
Mm-hmm.
So the broadleaf should have been essentially dormant at that point. We're trying to kill the grasses. We burned in late February, everything, all of it.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere that is not going into beans, we turned over with a disc, thinking, hey, that would expedite the growth of whatever's in the seed bed. I'm just gonna be free. Interestingly enough, so that was March that we turned that out. March, maybe even late March, early April.
Yep.
And but first of all, it's hard to remember, like to know, like you'd think everything would be way green, like, but I guess it's not till June or July that them fields really start to get thick.
I mean, they're coming along fast here, but it's mid-May.
So my observation is that like where we turned it over, not a lot's going on. Like I've got some thistle and like some grass and areas that we missed, like just patchy and like here,
but
and
not like ragweeds.
No,
and stuff.
not like you'd think.
Yep.
The area that we didn't turn over that I'm gonna plant the beans here soon is like thick with ragweed, with like all kinds of the stuff I think that you're
just let it go.
We're
Jared.
looking for. There's more grass in there too for whatever reason, like a more consistent covering of grass, which I don't necessarily know why, but
probably not fescue because you sprayed that. Probably just some kind of other perennial type grass.
So I just thought that was interesting. Like a couple weeks, month or two into it here, the unturned stuff is ahead of it.
And our thought was potentially that seed was very shallow in the seed bed, so without turning it, it's getting to temperature and everything quickly. Whereas the turn stuff, maybe it buried it. I don't know.
Maybe, but it's not like I chisel plowed it.
Yeah,
it's just a disc.
Just a disc.
Just ran a disc through it. So
it'll be interesting. We get some. I mean, we've had a real weird weather spell too. Like I feel like
been great growing.
February and early March was warm. Then it got cold. Then it got warm again. Then it got cold. Now we're kind of
rain.
Yeah. So I think that maybe the biggest key, and this is where I saw in Kentucky versus Ohio, is soil temp. Right, where in Kentucky it seemed like I was getting soil temps. It was warmer weather, so we were getting higher soil temps. I mean, it is lush. I mean, not necessarily desirable lush in some of those areas because of the grass, but I mean, it's lush. Go to Ohio, I ain't shit. And it could be the difference between 5 and 10 degrees in soil temp.
Yeah.
But I think as soon as that soil temp gets to that 65, 70 degree mark on average, that's when I think you see stuff really blowing through the roof. mean, that's the key for growth.
Yeah.
Because I think beans we want at like what 70 degrees is like the
65.
65. Yeah, and corn is at 55 to 65 range too.
So where are we leaving this then for this week? I've got my lime fertilizer, and I'm sprayed. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
I'm drilling beans next week, and weather looks great. We're going to be in the 70s, 80s moving forward.
Yep.
And that'll be it for my.
We're catching. I mean, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, hopefully we caught a rain on Saturday, which washes our fertilizer in. It looks good. I already looked.
Okay. On Saturday.
Quarter to 3/4 or quarter to 0.35.
Would you say that's a lot?
I'd say that's good. It's adequate. Depends on my scale.
That's huge.
Yeah. So I'm in kind of the same. I sprayed for all my bean plots. I fertilized everything. I might want to add some more fertilizer to some of my bean plots. We'll see if I can knock it all out in the day. So my return, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, hopefully this weekend, is I'm going to spray my corn plots to knock back the grass and broadleaves. And then I'm going to give it another week. And so it'll be probably the first week of June is my plan. I'm going to put my beans in the ground then.
Cool.
And then hopefully by then I have a better beat on what's happening in Ohio to know if I need to go back in and try to drill some beans in some of the back plots or if the corn's coming up. I can't do anything on that front field though. I mean, the unfortunate thing is if I don't have cover on that front field, it's a poaching magnet. So I'm just probably going to leave it fallow unless I can get some screen in there.
I'd go with screen if you're worried about the poaching.
Super worried about the poaching. Yeah. Yeah. So the hope was I had 6 foot corn or 8 foot corn in there. Doesn't look like it, at least right now. Didn't come. I mean, again, maybe it's soil temperature. Maybe I got it in too early, but it just isn't coming up like I thought.
Yeah.
So
all right. Well, we'll keep an eye on it.
Yeah, we'll keep you guys posted on this. It's kind of that. Not much going on. It's mid-May. You're struggle busing. By the time we get into mid-June, I bet by the time we get to mid to end of June, we'll start to recognize some of the bucks that we hopefully had been watching last year. But yeah, other than that, we'll keep you updated on the projects and got a few guests coming down the line here that should be pretty good on the podcast, and we'll just keep cranking.
All right. We'll talk to you guys later.
See ya.
Take me